Hello, little story lovers, and welcome to our magical world of fairy tales. Are you ready for an exciting adventure? Today, we're going to journey deep into a mysterious forest with a brother and sister who are very brave. Their names are Hansel and Gretel. So snuggle up, get comfy, and let's begin our story. Once upon a time, nestled at the edge of a great dark forest, lived a poor woodcutter with his two children, Hansel and Gretel, and their stepmother. Times were very hard, and there was barely enough food for the family to eat. One night, as Hansel and Gretel lay in their beds, they overheard their stepmother talking to their father. "There is nothing left," she said. "We must take the children deep into the forest and leave them there. Perhaps someone kind will find them." The woodcutter was very sad, but he didn't know what else to do. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel whispered, "Don't worry, Gretel, I have a plan." Later that night, when everyone was asleep, Hansel tiptoed outside. The moon was shining brightly, making the little white pebbles in the yard sparkle like silver coins. Hansel filled his pockets with as many of the shiny pebbles as he could carry. Then he crept back into bed. The next morning, at the crack of dawn, the stepmother woke the children. "Get up," she said. "We are going into the forest to gather wood." She gave each of them a small piece of bread for their lunch. Gretel put both pieces in her pocket, since Hansel's pockets were full of pebbles. As they walked deeper and deeper into the forest, Hansel secretly dropped one little white pebble after another onto the path. He dropped them when his father and stepmother weren't looking. Finally, they reached a clearing deep within the woods. "Wait here, children," said their father. "We'll go and cut some wood and come back for you soon." Hansel and Gretel sat down and ate their bread. They waited and waited, but their parents never returned. Soon the sun set, and the forest grew dark and spooky. Gretel was scared, but Hansel comforted her. "Wait until the moon rises, Gretel," he said, "then we will find our way home." When the big, round moon climbed into the sky, its light made Hansel's white pebbles shimmer and glow. They looked like a trail of tiny stars on the forest floor. "Come on," said Hansel, and, hand in hand, they followed the trail of pebbles. They walked all through the night, and just as the sun began to rise, they saw their little cottage in the distance. Their father was overjoyed to see them, but their stepmother pretended to be angry, even though secretly she was just unhappy they had returned. Not long after, there was even less food than before. Once again, Hansel and Gretel overheard their stepmother's cruel plan. "We must take them even deeper into the forest this time," she insisted, "so they can't find their way back." "Again," Gretel cried, and again Hansel tried to comfort her. He planned to go out and collect more pebbles, but this time the stepmother had locked the cottage door. Hansel couldn't get outside. He was worried, but he tried not to show it. "Don't be sad, Gretel," he whispered. "We will think of something." The next morning, they were led even deeper into the forest. This time, Hansel had no pebbles. Instead, he took his small piece of bread and broke it into tiny crumbs, dropping them along the path behind him. He hoped the crumbs would lead them back home, just like the pebbles did. But alas, Hansel didn't know about all the hungry little birds that lived in the forest. When he and Gretel turned to follow the trail home, they found that every single crumb was gone. The birds had eaten them all. Now they were truly lost. They wandered for 3 whole days, their tummies rumbling with hunger. They ate wild berries to survive, but they were getting so tired. On the 3rd day, just as they were about to give up hope, they saw a beautiful little white bird singing a sweet song. They followed the bird, and it led them to a clearing, and in that clearing stood the most amazing house they had ever seen. It wasn't an ordinary house. It was made entirely of gingerbread, with a roof of cakes and windows of clear sugar. "Wow!" cried Gretel. "It's a candy house!" They were so hungry, they ran right up to it. Hansel broke off a piece of the roof, and Gretel nibbled on a window pane. It was delicious. Suddenly, a sweet, gentle voice called out from inside, "Nibble, nibble, like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?" The children replied, the wind, the heavenly wind," and they kept on eating. Then the door creaked open, and a very old woman with a cane hobbled out. Hansel and Gretel were frightened, but she smiled kindly. "Oh, you poor children," she cooed. "You must be so hungry. Come inside. Come inside. I have plenty of food for you." She led them into her cozy little cottage, which was filled with the smell of warm sweets. She gave them a wonderful meal of pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts. Then she showed them to 2 soft, comfy beds, and they fell fast asleep, thinking they had found the kindest person in the world. But the old woman was not kind at all. She was actually a wicked witch who had built the candy house to trap children, and she had very poor eyesight, so she relied on her sense of smell. The next morning, she grabbed Hansel and locked him in a small cage. She shook Gretel awake. "Get up, you lazy girl," she shrieked. "You are going to cook delicious food for your brother. We need to fatten him up, and then I'm going to eat him." Gretel was terrified and cried her heart out, but she had to do what the witch said. Every day, the witch would go to Hansel's cage and say, "Stick out your finger so I can feel if you're plump enough to eat." But clever Hansel knew she couldn't see well. Instead of his finger, he would poke a little chicken bone through the bars of the cage. The witch would feel the thin bone and get frustrated. "Why aren't you getting fatter?" she would grumble. This went on for weeks. Finally, the witch lost her patience. "I can't wait any longer," she screeched at Gretel. "Fat or thin, I'm going to eat Hansel today. Go and check if the oven is hot enough." But Gretel had a brave and clever idea. She pretended she didn't know how to check. "I don't understand," she said innocently. "How do I see if it's hot?" The witch grew angry. "Useless girl," she shouted. "I'll show you." The witch hobbled over to the huge brick oven and stuck her head inside to check the heat. This was Gretel's chance. With all her might, she gave the witch a great big push from behind. The witch tumbled right into the oven, and Gretel quickly slammed the heavy iron door shut. She had done it. She had saved them. Gretel ran to Hansel's cage and unlocked it with the witch's key. "Hansel, we're free!" she cried. They hugged each other, so happy to be safe. Before they left, they explored the witch's house. They discovered chests filled with pearls, diamonds, and jewels. "This is much better than pebbles," said Hansel, and they filled their pockets with the treasure. Now they had to find their way home. They walked for what felt like hours until they came to a wide river. There was no bridge. "How will we get across?" wondered Gretel. Just then a large white duck swam over. They kindly asked for help, and the duck carried them across the river, one at a time. On the other side, the forest began to look familiar. Soon they saw their cottage in the distance. They ran as fast as their legs could carry them. They burst through the door and into their father's arms. He was so happy, he cried tears of joy. He told them that their stepmother had gone away, and that he had missed them every single day. When Hansel and Gretel emptied their pockets, pouring out all the sparkling jewels, their father's eyes grew wide. All their troubles were over. They never had to worry about being hungry again. And so the woodcutter, Hansel, and Gretel lived happily ever after, together in their little cottage. What a fantastic adventure! Hansel and Gretel were so smart and brave, weren't they? It just goes to show that even when things seem scary, being clever and sticking together can help you find your way through. I hope you enjoyed our story today. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to come back for another magical fairy tale very soon. Bye-bye.